Okay, so I've never made a tutorial before, but I just wanted to help people out. Here I'm showing that like my edges aren't completely even. And I think I remember to do an after shot so you can see what the sanding does. Hopefully this helps. All right, so here I'm starting with 80 grit. That's gonna remove the most material without tearing. This is sped up, but you just want to do that back and forth motion with an even pressure. Don't push too hard. I kind of compare it to your pencil grip. I like to get down to eye level and check and see where I have any indents or grooves. This might be easier to do if you're starting from deckled, but I had this trimmed at the FedEx store, so it was already kind of wonky and dipping in places, so it was a little more difficult to sand. This part of the video, I do kind of different motions other than just straight back and forth, which I don't necessarily know if I recommend. I have only done this a few times, so I'm in no way an expert. This right here, I kind of used the edge because I was getting impatient and that took that bit of paper off faster. But if you aren't careful about that, you will end up with a bit of a dip because you're essentially applying more pressure there. So if you do that, be careful. I just keep going with this and flipping it back and forth and eyeballing it. I have found that I like to go towards the edges forward. So I flip it back and forth and go towards the edges because I found if I'm working backwards on those corner edges, I can end up with a curve right there. And obviously I don't want to sand a curve into the corners of the books. So just really that motion of flipping it back and forth, checking it, and keep going until you feel like you've got a smooth surface to work on, and then go to your next grit. And then how far you go will depend on what you're trying to do. Here, I'm just continuing the process until I'm satisfied and think I can move on to the next grit. Again here, probably try to avoid using the edge of the sander. I don't think that's a great idea. Sorry, I'm working with this crappy little stand. Right, so I'm just gonna take it out of the press to look at some stuff because I'm close to my margins. So just keeping track of that. It's kind of stiff. Let's see how the is coming out of there or not. I can see it on person, but I can't tell if it's in the camera or not. So like, I had a mistake and I had to cut this so you can see my margins are really close, so I'm watching for it. So I still have that dip in the middle. This is because I had this book Guillotine, put in the Guillotine at the FedEx store, and the guy just did a terrible cut. It went like in, out. So it was kind of like a little like V in the center of the book on the edges because of the way the guy trimmed it. But I mean, this still looks way nicer than if you just trimmed it. Sorry, I'm not used to like thinking out loud on camera. Yeah, so like, I mean, I feel like this is definitely good enough for a book, but I'm gonna spray the edges, so I gotta make sure I get it exact. And I'm almost there, and I've got plenty of space where I'm not gonna hit text, so I'm just gonna keep going. So I'll get it back in the press, show the finishing part of that, and then go to the next grit. I'm just pointing out why you don't want to use your clamps that you've used for spray paint, because all you have to do is bump it, and then there's a smudge. Here I'm switching to the 120 grit because feel like I've gotten enough of the actual paper layers off, and I will just go over with that until everything feels a little bit smoothed down. And then I switched to the 80, which is, 180, which is where I stop because I intended to spray the edges. And then I keep going with that until I'm satisfied, and then I will take it out of the press and go to one of the other edges. I'm just getting all of the dust out, shaking everything out, making sure I'm satisfied with it, and then I will put it back in the clamps with the board. And the reason I'm not using my actual press is I've just found that I like this way better. I feel like it yields better results. I wasn't getting completely even edges before when I was using my press. And then I'm just gonna get everything lined up how I want it, and then start the process again on the edge the same way I did the foredge, starting at the 80, going till I'm satisfied, 120, 180, and so on. I'm just doing a recording of doing the top edge here. I didn't record the bottom because it's the same thing I did here and on the foredge. If you want an even smoother polished finished, if you're not spraying, then you could keep going up with the grit and have, just really pretty shiny edges. I don't know how great I did here because I've never made a tutorial, but if it was helpful and you want me to make one for spraying edges, I can try to do that too. So yeah, I hope everyone figures this out.